Medal of Honor Above and Beyond took me by surprise when it was announced. It released in December of 2020, 8 whole years after the previous title, Warfighter. I always wished for a reboot of the Medal of Honor franchise, but I never expected it, let alone a VR game, which I know will turn a lot of people away because VR is an expensive investment. But lucky enough for me, I had a VR headset and I was ready to dive in. My first impressions of the game were not great. I didn't pre-order and I always wait for reviews, and when I saw mixed and negative reviews, I held off until a sale. A few months go by and a little discount to tempt me in, and before a blink of an eye, I was installing all 171 gigabytes of it. So it took me a few days to download, and excited me watched that download bar until it reached 100%. I stuffed on my Oculus headset, and I was completely disappointed by the gunplay and the handling of the guns. I refunded it within an hour. 2 whole years later, after I first played, I was ready to experience some VR again and take on Medal of Honor Above and Beyond once more. Although my grievances from before are still present, I pushed on and found myself lost in the game, having fun, gunning down enemies with anything I could get my hands on, and well, I started enjoying it. I know it's not great to hear X gets good after a certain amount of time, but hopefully by the end of the video you can decide if it's worth your time or not. The story is too inconsistent, with it start-stopping. 1 minute I'm in the action, next I'm sticking my thumbs up and down. By the way, that is a really cool way of changing your settings. It just takes far too long. The cutscenes are good, but they ruin the flow of the gameplay. You must stand in a specific spot, and then it fades to black, and then you watch the scene play out. But I understand the story's got to start somewhere. You play a part of the OSS, which is the Office of Strategic Services. It was the intelligence agency of the United States during World War II. Your first mission, even though your instructor said you won't, you'll be tasked with derailing a train and a front-on assault of the Gestapo headquarters.
You'll have 3 days to assist the resistance, gather intelligence on German activity, and sabotage targets of opportunity. I'm talking about a small communications relay or a fuel truck, not anything like blowing up a train or destroying Gestapo headquarters. This is your first OSS mission. Baby steps.
Are you crazy? Oh, too late. God help us.
Boom.
A great first mission for an OSS officer. During the opening stages, you are introduced to a handful of unique and quirky characters. Some you may know from back in the PS1 games. Each of them you work beside and you fight beside, all with unique personalities and traits, which doesn't need to be there, but it's a great addition to Medal of Honor, to squeeze in character development and a story, although it can be somewhat annoying in some places. The story takes you on a great adventure, raiding trains, U-boats, shooting down planes, skiing down the snowy mountains of Norway. With plenty of variation between the levels, it keeps it fresh and entertaining throughout. Like all VR games, motion sickness can be a big problem. There is an option to skip tense missions and give you a brief overview of what happened, so you're not completely left in the dark if you to skip a mission. And honestly, it's a great idea. Some of the missions can be very motion sick inducing, and having a little heads up or an option to skip is greatly appreciated. However, that does come with a drawback. You will be missing out on half the game. Medal of Honor Above and Beyond doesn't hold back simply because it's a VR game. It takes all the action set pieces from previous titles and dials it up to max for a non-stop action ride, and it's great, as long as you can keep your stomach down and your headache away. The level of interactivity in the guns of Medal of Honor Above and Beyond doesn't quite hit the mark. For example, and in comparison, I will be using Pavlov VR, which has an arsenal of World War II guns. The detail of the guns in Medal of Honor up close leaves much to be desired, especially when compared to games like Pavlov VR, where the guns are far more detailed and far more interactive, like loading shells or stripper clips into your gun yourself, cocking or sliding the slide whenever you want. And for a game that is 171 gigabytes, you think you'd get a really high detail quality, but it gets beaten by Pavlov sitting at 64 gigabytes. Although the above I mentioned can be quite disappointing and frustrating. The gunplay is fun and made easy, so even the least experienced VR enjoyer can hop into the game and have fun. You have 3 slots for your guns, one on the left shoulder, one on the right shoulder, as well as one on the hip for the smaller guns. Guns can be found and picked up throughout the level. You pretty much get most of the guns you would expect from a World War II shooter, like the iconic M1 with the ping, the Thompson, Springfield, Trench Gun, Kar98K, MP40, STG-44, Luger, P38, MG42, Guerra 43, etc. But no Sten. You know, the gun that was mass produced and given to the resistance that we're currently fighting with. Yeah, it's completely missing and seems to be replaced by M1s and Thompsons. When you select your dominant hand in the settings, you are stuck with using that one hand. You cannot be ambidextrous and use your left hand whenever you want, like any other VR games. You are stuck with using that dominant hand, which is very annoying, especially when you want to peek around the left side of a wall, for example, or the right side, and you just want to switch hands. It doesn't quite work like that in this. The music is great. It's what you expect from a Medal of Honor game. It often gives a nostalgia feeling of playing the PS1 games and being a one-man army fighting against the enemy hordes. Medal of Honor Above and Beyond offers plenty of content. The single player with an average completion time of 10 hours. I did mine in 10 hours as well, including watching all the documentary. It also offers a survival mode and the multiplayer, but the multiplayer is just bloat as the servers are no longer active and have been completely shut down by EA. It doesn't say this on the Steam page, however, it only mentions this on the Quest store page. So that's disappointing, I'll never get to try it. However, it does offer a gallery, much like the original title. It shows original footage of World War II, this time ramped up and viewable in VR. It includes documentaries and 360-degree videos of important locations, which really sets in that this just isn't just a game. This is inspired by a real war, real places, real people, and the real horror. And it really shows the effort the development team put into it. In conclusion, I'm not fresh to the Medal of Honor, so nostalgia is probably playing quite a big part of my enjoyment of the game. So you may not appreciate it as much as I am if this is your first Medal of Honor. But overall, Medal of Honor is a great VR title. It might not hit the mark on everything, but nothing compares to the scale and action Medal of Honor sets up, with the epic action sequences and a simple yet funny and engaging story and gameplay. And even if you're not a big fan of the game, the documentary is well worth watching. It shows a wide variety of stories, and you can immerse yourself in the real places and locations. They might have not have hit the ground running with Medal of Honor Above and Beyond, with reviewers giving it a mixed to slash, and it currently sitting on Steam at a mixed reviews, which is sad to see, but I hope it's not the end. Hopefully we can get another VR Medal of Honor game, maybe in the Pacific. That would be interesting. Or maybe on the Eastern Front. I'd prefer the Pacific. That'd be much cooler.